Hi, I'm Daniel Kraft. I'm the CEO of Sitrion, and I'm here with Jamie Nutter, who is not just the author of a great book, but he's also a like-minded person on turning companies into social organizations and changing the culture. So great to have you here, and I'm really interested to learn what you have experienced out there interviewing, researching, and writing it all down for us.
When Maddie and I started writing the book, actually before we started writing the book, we realized that Maddie actually is a consultant that does social media work. We realized that organizations that wanted to be social, to embrace social technology, were struggling implementing it, and they thought it's because they didn't know how to do social media. But what we discovered is they actually knew how to do social media just fine. The problem was the way social media works isn't compatible with the way our organizations work. And so the epiphany for us was we probably actually need to do more work on changing organizations, changing organizational culture for social to really be adopted than on perfecting the technology side.
So if you're looking at an organization and you could picture the best, most agile organization, what would be a few things you would see?
First, the one that I'm seeing most frequently is companies that at least embrace the idea of decentralization. Again, not that hierarchy is bad. Hierarchy is very natural. There's some people that are experimenting with different forms of hierarchy. They're not flat. They're not completely flat. Some people know more than others about things. They're going to be relied on as experts. There's going to be a natural pecking order. As human beings, we want that. But not the rigid mechanical hierarchy of the past that we've had, where you can't do anything unless it gets approved by this person, and then that person, and this person.
So you're actually lobbying for a hierarchy based on expertise, a hierarchy based on the case in which something is happening, and not a static hierarchy which is established by a certain level you achieve, and then until you retire you own that status.
No, so for example, W.L. Gore and Associates, the people who invented Gore-Tex, they have, and they've done this for years, they have 2 titles. And they have thousands of employees, but they only have 2 titles, leader and associate. Mm-hmm. And the leader title is given to you by your associates. Mm-hmm. So you earn it.
So how far away are we from that? Is this a matter of a few years?
I would put it in the 3 to 10 year range where it'll be more mainstream. We're already at the point where it's starting to snowball. So I think if you think you have a generation to wait and figure this out, I think you're going to fall behind.
You mentioned at some point that when asked about big enterprises and this cultural change, that is tough to do if you have like JP Morgan, JP Morgan Chase, 250,000 people. There is no one culture. And you mentioned there are cultures per region, per department. Help me to understand how, as a CEO, I can tap into those different cultures.
At the top, you are distant from what happens at the periphery. And so what you have to do is learn how to negotiate your culture down the different levels and across the different divisions. And cultural divisions, including geographic and regional. So what will happen is you get clear on what your culture is, and then as that rolls out, eventually it's going to clash. So whatever clarity you achieved, they're going to push up against that and say, that doesn't make sense to me. And that's where you have to have the discipline to work through that conflict. Mm-hmm. And say, all right, what's different then? Because there's some things I'm willing to bend on, and there's some things I'm not, in terms of what drives the success. And you two regions, you 2 departments, you 2 levels, you have to figure out where the bend takes place and where it doesn't. And that is an emerging conversation, because that's the essence of culture.
So looking into the next 20 years, what are the top 3 things we all going to be surprised that you expect from this idea?
The fundamental shift, I think, in the millennial generation that I think is going to lead the next 3 or 4 generations down the road in terms of how we manage is the power of the individual. Mm-hmm. Right? Social media gave us the power. The people formerly known as the audience are now the ones creating.
So the network is actually the replacement for what's called the organization before.
And so what we needed before was the size of the organization in order to scale, in order to get the efficiency. I think we're going to find new ways to do that so that size is not going to, and sort of that control structure is not going to be driving the efficiency and productivity. It's that layer of middle management. One of our challenges about making work better, one of our challenges about figuring this stuff out is reinventing what middle management does, and sometimes inventing them out of their current jobs.
We all know we need to turn the managers into what they initially signed up for, to be moderators and be helpers of the team to get the job done.
Well, so there's, in the book we use a definition of leadership that we stole from Peter Senge, and this is a bit of a paraphrase. Leadership is the system's capacity to shape its future. So leadership is not inherent in a position of authority. Leadership exists throughout the system when it enables the system to shape its own future. If you have a system that lacks leadership, then the future just happens to you. And we've seen organizations like that. They're behind, they're not doing well. Organizations that are on top of things, they're creating their own future.
Well, thanks a lot for your time.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to learn from you and to see how we can turn some of the ideas that you're mentioning in your book into reality. Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.